$26 million. Just let that number sink in for a second. That is exactly how much was raised from over 100 investors for a glittering Texas real estate dream. But ultimately, that dream fractured. It completely transformed into frozen assets, a fierce battle over missing money, and a massive federal lawsuit brought by the SEC.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into an intricate financial web to answer one multi-million-dollar question. Why exactly did the Securities and Exchange Commission sue Texas developer Tim Barton? The allegations outline a wildly complex scheme full of misappropriation, shell companies, and broken promises. We're going to look directly at the source documents and follow the paper trail to see exactly how this all unfolded.
So here's our roadmap for today. We'll kick things off with the Texas real estate dream. Then we'll break down the anatomy of the scheme, track the missing millions, look at when the SEC takes action, and finally explore how the family fights back. All right, let's jump right into part one, the Texas real estate dream.
Back between 2017 and 2019, investors were pitched what sounded like a rock-solid, highly structured real estate opportunity. The pitch was seemingly straightforward, really. Step 1, pool funds together to buy very specific, pre-identified parcels of Texas land. Step 2, develop that raw dirt into residential lots. Step 3, build homes on those lots. And then Step 4, the best part, repay the investors their principal plus annual interest within 2 years. To build trust, the pitch leaned heavily on the reputations of an experienced Texas homebuilder named Stephen Wall and a broker named Michael Fu, who was facilitating the sales to Chinese clients. Investors honestly thought they were stepping into a totally secure, expertly managed venture.
Which brings us to part two, anatomy of the scheme. Now, this right here is the massive discrepancy that really set off the SEC's alarms. On the one side, you have the promise, specific purchase prices for the land, and an ironclad corporate guarantee by JMJ Holdings to cover any default. Pretty safe, right? While on the flip side is the SEC's reality. They allege that the land prices were secretly and artificially inflated to raise excess cash, and that ironclad guarantee, the SEC found that JMJ Holdings was literally a worthless, dormant shell company with zero assets. Okay, moving right along to part three, following the missing millions. Remember that $26 million we started with? Well, out of that total, the SEC traced an astonishing $23.7 million that was allegedly misappropriated. That means the vast majority of the capital raised was not actually used to develop the specific properties promised to those investors. So where on earth did it all go? According to the SEC's forensic accountants, these funds were heavily commingled. We're talking spread across over 160 different bank accounts. It's like a giant, messy financial puzzle. The money was allegedly drained to acquire totally unrelated properties, funneled into lavish personal expenses like airplanes and meals, and even used for Ponzi-like payments to earlier investors, just to keep the whole illusion alive. That leads us into part four. The SEC takes action. Let's look at the timeline of how this escalated. The initial fundraising ran from March 2017 to June 2019. Fast forward to September 2022, and the federal government had seen enough. They stepped in, froze the operation, and filed a massive civil lawsuit. But enforcement didn't stop there. By March 2024, the action aggressively shifted toward individuals in an attempt to claw back that missing cash. To actually get the defrauded investors' money back, the federal court appointed what's called a receiver, an attorney named Court Thomas. You can think of a receiver as a legally empowered financial detective. Their whole job is to take total control of the entities, marshal the assets, and recover the missing funds. And let me tell you, this was no easy task. Court filings allege that Barton actually used IT professionals to move financial records to hidden cloud servers, specifically to deliberately frustrate the receiver's investigation. But the receiver kept digging, and his forensic accounting led him straight to a very sensitive area: Tim Barton's ex-wife and children. And that brings us to our final section, the family fights back. The receiver is aggressively pursuing the family, claiming they received fraudulent transfers of investor funds without providing any real value to the company. Take a look at this breakdown. The SEC claims Barton's ex-wife, Martine, received over $780,000, largely paying off massive American Express bills despite allegedly providing no services. Barton's son and daughter are also targeted for tens of thousands of dollars, but the family is absolutely not backing down. Tim's son, Max Barton, actually fired back.
He filed a highly detailed, sworn legal declaration pushing back aggressively against the receiver's claims. Max provided a starkly different perspective on the money he received, totally reframing the narrative from a fraudulent transfer to simply underpaid employee compensation.
His main point? It's all about sweat equity. In his declaration, he literally states, "I worked tirelessly, often beyond normal working hours. I was one of the least paid workers dedicating the most hours." He's painting a picture not of a son receiving illicit handouts, but of a dedicated, overworked employee just trying to keep a chaotic family business afloat.
And Max's defense gets incredibly specific. He brings the receipts. He claims he was handling property maintenance and responding to emergencies 24/7. He points out his integral role in helping the company secure a massive billion-dollar public improvement agreement in Venus, Texas. And to counter the idea that these checks were just free money, he actually handed the court his detailed reimbursement logs, showing trips to Home Depot, gas receipts, and hardware supplies to prove these were legitimate business expenses. Finally, he notes that if you spread his roughly $62,000 across 3 years, he was earning less than $25,000 a year. That is way below the industry standard. It's a fierce legal dispute, and it highlights exactly how messy things get when the government tries to unravel a family-run operation.
So what does this all mean for the people who actually put their money on the line? With $26 million raised, millions allegedly blown on lavish lifestyles, and a family fiercely defending every single clawback attempt, will those defrauded investors ever truly recover their funds? As the SEC's case against Tim Barton grinds on through federal court, it leaves us with one really provocative question. When a glittering real estate dream morphs into a financial nightmare, who ultimately pays the price?